In this tutorial, I'll show you how to build a first working game engine using Construct 2. If you want to follow along, please download and install a free version of Construct 2 available at http://www.scirra.com. Let's go to File and New to create a new document. I'll cover what these menu items are. The Construct 2's main layout is divided into 5 parts. The project window is where we can find layouts, event sheets, the game art and sound files. What are layouts? Suppose we were painters and we need a canvas to paint. The layouts are our canvases. That's where our game art goes. So all the visual stuffs go in there. The event sheets are the main driving force behind the Construct 2 engine's game projects. That's where the magic occurs. Yes, I said magic because the event sheets allow us not to enter a single line of code to make our objects in Canvas interact with the environment. What Construct 2 can do for you is giving you an ability to visually do things that usually takes thousands lines of the most difficult code to program. By using the event sheets, you create games. I'll cover more on this feature shortly. The Properties window is where we set our project's setup details. Its About section is used to enter the author details. When you make mobile games, your information gets recognized from that section. The Project Setting window is where we enter the general project details. The only setting that are used heavily while developing games is the window size. I'll cover that issue part later as well. The Configuration Settings category is where we set the rest of the details about the project. We can choose the Game Preview web browser, change the full screen scale modes, enter sampling information and so on. In the middle of the main layout, you'll see 2 tabs. They're Layout 1 and Event Sheet 1. That's the first layout we can use and its associated event sheet. When you create a new layout, you can decide whether to create an associated event sheet or not. On the right side of the main layout, we have the layers. It works just like other applications like Photoshop or Krita. We can add or delete layers, lock layers or set their visibility. At the bottom of the main layout we have a tilemap category. We use that window when we're using tilemaps when setting up the game art. If we're not using tilemaps, we don't use that at all. We can double-click the canvas to add a new game object, or right-click and select Add New Object to do the same. We can load our game art here, or directly paint it to create a game object. Let's use a paint bucket with not so high alpha setting to paint the player object. This is our placeholder player object. You can drag the small square buttons to resize the game object. If you click and drag the handle in the middle of the object, you can rotate the object like this. If we wanted to turn this object into a car, what do? We add what is known as a behaviors to this game object. Click Behaviors to open the Behaviors window. Click the plus button to add a new behavior called car. Now, click the Run Layout button at the top to test the game. Use your keyboard's arrow keys to move. This is the true power of Construct 2. We didn't add a single line of code, and now our object is moving as if it was programmed to operate like a car. Look at how smooth the object moves and how it makes perfect turns. This will need more than 100 lines of difficult programming codes if we were to create this movement ability from scratch. Let me show you something. Notice how this car is moving out of the screen. We can still control the car, but it's not visible once it gets out of the canvas. Let's add Bound to Layout behavior so we can limit the car object's movement to our canvas. Let's test this. It appears the Bound to Layout only seems to work on the left side. How could that be? That's because the Bound to Layout behavior is doing the job correctly and we're not seeing the entire layout window. If we zoom out, we'll see our layout is way bigger than the visible canvas. In later tutorials, I'll show you how to navigate like RPG games where a player character is centered in-game and it can travel to different places in-game freely. For now, let's use the window size data to limit the size of the layout. Let's copy the window size and paste that to both layout size and margins. Let's test the game again. It's working. Can we only make car games in Construct 2 by using the car behavior? Absolutely not. We can make any games by using other movement behaviors. Let's try this 8-direction behavior and test the game. Use the arrow keys to move around. We can change the settings to limit the movement to 4 or 2 directions as well. Let's delete these examples. The first thing we need to be doing, before we do anything, while we're developing games is to create a basic game engine. The game engine is where the players are greeted with main menu, where player gets to play the game, where player goes to the game over screen when the game ends, and where player goes to game finish screen when the player finishes the game. Each screen needs to have an ability to interact with one another. The basic game is this. The basic game is when you arrange the values you set, to reach a certain stage, something happens. For example, if don't have any more spaceships, then the game ends. If you don't have enough bullets, the game ends, and so on. The true ability and integrity of a good programmer relies on how the programmer arranges the values in their games. Let me show you an example. Let's add more layouts. We need to add corresponding event sheets for them as well. Let's name them Game, Main Menu, Game Over, and Game Finished. We can set the first layout to be Main Menu, so when our project gets exported the main menu layout will open first. While you're editing, any layouts you're currently working on will run. So if you want to test the main menu layout, select the Main Menu Layout tab first in order to preview it in the web browser. Since all layouts look the same, we need to add a visual indicators to tell which layouts we're looking at. Let's add text objects and name them accordingly. Let's add a new sprite called to Game to be used as a button we press to go to the game layout from the main menu layout. By the way, you can change the names of the event sheets freely as well. The easiest method is to click them once and pressing F2 key to rename. If you're not sure which event sheet belongs to which layout, just click one of the layouts and you'll see which event sheet the layout is related to. In order to click the new button, we need to add a touch object. Touch object is used to simulate the end user's touch while using the mobile phone, and it can also be used to work as a mouse while we're developing games. This is how we use the event sheet. Click Add Event. Since we're going to be touching the button we've just created, we'll pick Untouched Object. This means when we touch or click something, we're going to pick the target object to the button we just created. So far this means when the end user clicks the purple button, we'll see the game screen. Then we need to add what will happen next. Let's click Add Action. We'll use the system's Go to Layout object to make transition to the game layout. In the game screen, we need to add a visual indicator as well. Let's go to the Main Menu tab and test the game. Let's click the button. It worked. Now we're in the game layout. Let's right-click the button to clone it twice. We need to create two buttons, so the screen can make transition to either Game Over or Game Finished screen depending on what button was pressed. Let's go to Event Sheet 1, and add the touch event. Alright, let's arrange the action so that when the end user touches the Game Over button, we'll move to the Game Over layout. And when the end user touches the Game Finished button, we'll go there. Let's add visual indicators as well. We can right-clicking the existing objects and clone them. If we test our game, if we click the first button we'll go to the game. If we click the Game Over button, then we'll go to the Game Over screen and so on. They're working perfectly. Now let's add some end user activities. Let's add a player sprite. Let's also add enemy and goal. Let's add a car behavior to the player. Let's bound the player to the layout. We need to tell the game, if the player sprite collides with the enemy sprite, we need to go to the game over layout. Let's do that by adding a player event with onCollision with another object. And that object is going to be the enemy. Let's pick an action to go to the game over screen. We can always copy and paste events like this. Press R as in Romeo, to switch the objects in selected event sheets. Let's test. Perfect. We need to add more options on Game Over and Game Finished screens, so that the end user can decide whether to play again or go to the main menu. Let's copy and paste the text objects and turn them into new buttons. Nothing will happen because we didn't program anything. Let's go to the corresponding events sheets and try again. Let's copy and paste the whole thing to event sheet 4. Perfect. Let's set some values and let's end the game according to more complex design. We'll need to set the lives value and compare that value to decide whether to end the game or not. Let's add a global variable and call that lives. Let's tell the game what happens to the lives value when the game starts. System, on start of layout, is what we'll use. We've set the lives to 2. That means when the game restarts, the lives value will always be 2. When the player collides with enemy, the player sprite needs to be destroyed and spawn again. Let's make that. Let's find out where our player's starting x and y coordinates are. After our player's sprite gets destroyed, the game will wait 1 second and spawn another player sprite where it first appeared. Perfect. Let's add the lives to the actions. In other words, when our player sprite collides with the enemy sprite, 1 life will be lost. Let's add a visual indicator for the lives. Nothing happened, because we need to tell the game to refresh the lives text indicator every second. Let's use system and every tick. Every tick means 60 times per second on the 60 frames per second environment. That's a bit excess, but that's okay. We'll learn to use another method later. So in every tick, we need to update the lives text to match what we have. A bit slow, because the game is waiting 1 second before updating the counter. Let's move the subtract action to the top, before the wait action. Finally, we'll tell the game to go to game over screen, if the player's lives are set to 0. There we go. Perfect. This is the end of tutorial. I'll share this game engine's source code to my GitHub page and post the link to the description below. Please like and subscribe if you have enjoyed watching this tutorial. Thank you for watching.